The hideous pea-green station wagon from National Lampoon's Vacation became one of cinema's most iconic vehicles. But its behind-the-scenes story is even stranger than the Griswolds' disastrous road trip. From accidental license plate throws to a designer credit controversy, and a bizarre real-life incident that inspired a dark joke, the family truckster's journey off-screen was just as wild as Clark's quest for Wally World. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about National Lampoon's Vacation's Wagon Queen family truckster. Fact 1. George Barris didn't actually build it. For decades, the Wagon Queen family truckster has been credited to George Barris, the legendary Hollywood car customizer who created iconic vehicles like the 1966 Batmobile, the Munster coach, and countless other famous movie cars. His name appears in numerous articles, documentaries, and even on Wikipedia as the designer and builder of Clark Griswold's hideous metallic pea-colored station wagon. But here's the weird part. Evidence strongly suggests that George Barris didn't actually build the family truckster at all, and that Warner Brothers' own prop department was responsible for transforming the 1979 Ford LTD Country Squire into the cinematic eyesore we all know and love. This revelation came from Gary Schneider, an enthusiast who did extensive research before building his own truckster replica, and discovered that Barris had no involvement in the original movie cars. Real-life Griswold family member Steve Griswold, who meticulously recreated a truckster for his own family road trips, confirmed this finding on his website, stating clearly that the car was modified by Warner Brothers and not by George Barris. Barris was known in the custom car community for sometimes taking credit for vehicles he didn't actually create, including the DeLorean from Back to the Future and Ki-It from Knight Rider, both of which were designed by other people. Despite the evidence, Barris continued to be associated with the family truckster throughout his career, and many sources still incorrectly credit him today. The confusion likely stems from Barris's high profile in Hollywood during the early 1980s and his legitimate work on other comedy vehicles. But the truth is that Warner Brothers' prop department deserves recognition for creating one of cinema's most memorably ugly automobiles, not the king of the customizers. Fact 2. 5 trucksters were built just to be destroyed. The production team behind National Lampoon's Vacation didn't just build one Wagon Queen family truckster for the movie, they built 5 separate versions of the notorious station wagon, and they did it knowing that most of them would be damaged or completely destroyed during filming. Each of the 5 cars was based on a 1979 Ford LTD Country Squire station wagon, and the production crew purchased all of them specifically to handle the punishment that the script demanded as the Griswold family's road trip went from bad to worse to absolutely catastrophic. The reason for building multiple versions becomes clear when you watch the movie and see everything that happens to the family truckster during the cross-country journey. The car gets vandalized with spray paint in East St. Louis, where the hubcaps are stolen and the side is tagged with graffiti. It survives an incredible jump off the highway and a crash landing in the Arizona desert that causes major damage to the undercarriage and suspension. It endures dishonest mechanics who presumably do even more harm under the hood. The poor wagon also has to carry the body of Aunt Edna strapped to the roof rack and drag Dinky the dog's leash from the rear bumper, and it keeps running despite all of this abuse. Each of the 5 trucksters was altered or wrecked in different ways to match specific scenes and stunts throughout the movie, allowing the production to maintain continuity while putting the cars through scenarios that would have been impossible with just one vehicle. By the time filming wrapped, the family truckster fleet had been thoroughly beaten up, which was exactly what the filmmakers needed to tell the story of the Griswolds' disastrous vacation. Fact 3. The stunt jump was a crew bet. One of the most memorable scenes in National Lampoon's Vacation happens when the Griswolds accidentally drive off the highway and launch into the air before crash landing in the Arizona desert, and the backstory behind filming this stunt is just as entertaining as the scene itself. Stunt coordinator Dick Zeiker made a bet with other crew members on set that he could jump the family truckster more than 50 feet before it came crashing down into the desert floor, and when the cameras rolled, Zeiker proved he knew exactly what he was doing by winning that bet easily. The iconic turn off the highway scene required precise timing and skill to pull off safely while still making it look like a complete disaster for the Griswold family. Zeiker, who was responsible for coordinating all the dangerous stunts in the film, had enough confidence in his abilities and his understanding of the car's capabilities that he was willing to put money on the line with his fellow crew members. When it came time to actually perform the jump, Zeiker didn't just barely clear the 50-foot mark. He sailed well past it, launching the massive station wagon through the air in a spectacular arc that captured exactly the kind of catastrophic mishap that defined the Griswolds' vacation. The fact that this impressive stunt was the result of a friendly wager between professionals on set adds another layer to the fun, showing that the people making the movie were having almost as much of an adventure as the characters on screen. Zeiker's successful jump became one of the film's most iconic moments, and the crew members who bet against him learned not to underestimate a professional stunt coordinator who's confident enough to put his reputation on the line. Fact 4. Chevy Chase accidentally threw the license plate. In one of the film's funniest moments, Clark Griswold frantically searches for the gas cap on the family Truckster at a service station, and when he can't find it on the back of the car where it's supposed to be, he rips off the rear license plate in frustration, assuming the gas cap might be hiding behind it. What viewers see in the final cut is Chevy Chase yanking the plate off and then appearing genuinely startled and concerned. And it turns out that his reaction was completely real because the license plate accidentally flew out of his hands during filming. Chase didn't mean to throw the license plate at all when he pulled it off the back of the Truckster, but the plate slipped from his grip and went sailing through the air, nearly hitting an actress who was standing behind an adjacent car on the set. The moment happened so quickly that Chase's look of alarm and worry was his authentic response to almost injuring someone with a flying piece of metal rather than a planned part of his performance. Director Harold Ramis and the crew apparently loved the genuine reaction so much that they kept it in the movie, and audiences watching the scene have no idea they're seeing a real accident captured on camera. The gas cap confusion itself is intentional comedy, since the family Truckster has its fuel filler door mounted on the hood instead of in the normal location at the rear of the vehicle, which is just one more absurd design choice that makes the car such a nightmare for Clark to deal with. But Chase's startled expression after the license plate went flying adds an extra layer of authenticity to the scene that no amount of acting could have replicated. Fact 5. The movie allegedly killed station wagon. A sales National Lampoon's Vacation might have done more than just entertain audiences in the summer of 1983. Some automotive historians believe the film actually contributed to the death of the American station wagon by making these family vehicles look absolutely terrible. After the movie's release, station wagon sales plummeted dramatically across the United States, and the vehicles soon disappeared from dealership lots as they were replaced by minivans as America's new family vehicle of choice. The theory goes that the Wagon Queen family Truckster was such a perfect caricature of everything people disliked about station wagons that it permanently damaged the vehicle's image in the minds of car buyers. With its hideous metallic pea green paint job, excessive fake wood paneling covering 70% of the body, 8 headlights, and overall tackiness pushed to absurd extremes, the Truckster represented the worst possible version of the Malaise-era family hauler. The film made station wagons synonymous with suburban dysfunction and embarrassment, turning them into a symbol of uncool family life that nobody wanted to be associated with. While it's difficult to prove that a single movie killed an entire vehicle category, the timing is remarkably suspicious, and the cultural impact of the Truckster was undeniable. The Griswolds' nightmarish road trip became so ingrained in American pop culture that station wagons carried that stigma with them for years afterward. Whether the film was the primary cause or simply accelerated an existing trend, the fact remains that station wagons went from being the standard family vehicle to nearly extinct within just a few years of the movie's release, making the family Truckster's legacy far more destructive than Clark Griswold could have ever imagined. Fact 6. The airbag was made from a trash bag. One of the most memorable gags in National Lampoon's Vacation happens when Clark crashes the family truckster and an airbag suddenly deploys from the steering wheel. But what looks like a safety feature is actually just another example of the car's laughably cheap and dysfunctional construction. The airbag that pops out and hits Chevy Chase in the face wasn't a real airbag at all. It was simply a household trash can liner, the kind of plastic garbage bag you'd find under your kitchen sink, which perfectly captured the spirit of a vehicle that was designed to be as terrible as possible. This detail was part of the overall design philosophy for the Wagon Queen family truckster, which was meant to lampoon the worst aspects of late 1970s American automobile manufacturing by taking every tacky and poorly conceived design element and pushing it to ridiculous extremes. The trash bag airbag fits right in with the car's other absurd features, like the 8 headlights mounted in clusters, the gas cap hidden in the hood, and the excessive fake wood paneling covering nearly every surface. The filmmakers wanted viewers to understand that this was a car built with the absolute minimum standards of quality and safety, and having a literal garbage bag serve as the airbag was the perfect visual joke to drive that point home. In the early 1980s, airbags were still relatively new technology in American cars and weren't yet standard equipment in most vehicles, so the average moviegoer would have found the idea of any airbag somewhat novel. The fact that the family truckster's version was just a flimsy piece of plastic that probably offered zero actual protection made it all the funnier and reinforced everything audiences already knew about this mechanical disaster on wheels. Fact 7. The story started during a Chicago blizzard. The entire National Lampoon's Vacation franchise owes its existence to a winter storm that trapped writer John Hughes inside his home with nothing to do but stare at a road map and let his imagination run wild. During the notorious Chicago blizzard of 1979, Hughes found himself snowed in for several days with nowhere to go and no way to get to his job at the Leo Burnett Advertising Agency, so he decided to use the downtime to work on a short story he'd been thinking about for National Lampoon magazine. Hughes had been freelancing as a humor writer while working his day job in advertising, contributing jokes to comedians and submitting pieces to magazines, but he hadn't yet broken through in any major way. Stuck inside during the blizzard, he sat down with a road map and started developing a fictional account of a disastrous family road trip, drawing inspiration from his own childhood memories of traveling with his parents. The isolation and boredom of being trapped indoors by the snowstorm gave him the perfect environment to focus entirely on writing, and over those few days he crafted the short story titled Vacation 58, which told the tale from the perspective of a young boy watching his father's dream vacation fall apart. The story was eventually published in National Lampoon magazine in September of 1979, and it became Hughes's big break into Hollywood when Warner Brothers optioned it for a feature film. That blizzard-induced creative session launched not only the Vacation movie franchise, but also helped establish Hughes as one of the most influential comedy writers and directors of the 1980s, leading to classics like The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Fact 8. A real family recreated the Truckster and Lives the movie. In what might be the ultimate example of life imitating art, a real-life couple named Steve and Lisa Griswold from Atlanta, Georgia, decided to fully embrace their coincidental last name by painstakingly building their own functioning replica of the Wagon Queen family truckster and using it to take actual family vacations with their 2 daughters. The couple spent countless hours and significant money transforming a 1980s Ford LTD station wagon into a screen-accurate version of the iconic movie car, complete with all the hideous details that made the original so memorable. In July of 2014, Steve and Lisa Griswold embarked on an epic cross-country road trip that mirrored the fictional Griswold family's journey from the film, driving their custom-built Truckster from their home in Atlanta all the way across the United States, while visiting every single filming location featured in the original National Lampoon's Vacation. They documented their journey and shared photos of their adventures, bringing joy to fans who encountered the instantly recognizable pea green station wagon at rest stops, gas stations, and tourist attractions along the way. The family's trip culminated at the gates of Wally World, which in reality is Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California, and they timed their arrival to coincide with the 31st anniversary of the film's release. The real Griswolds even appeared in the 2015 Vacation sequel, where their meticulously crafted replica was featured as the original family truckster sitting in Clark and Ellen's garage. Their dedication to recreating one of cinema's most infamous vehicles shows just how much the film resonated with audiences and how the truckster became more than just a movie prop. Fact 9. A replica sold for over $100,000. The Wagon Queen family truckster was intentionally designed to be the most hideous and unappealing car imaginable. But in a strange twist of fate, that same ugliness has made it incredibly valuable as a piece of movie memorabilia. At the Barrett-Jackson Palm Beach auction in 2020, a meticulously built replica of the family truckster sold for an astonishing $100,100, proving that collectors are willing to pay serious money for a faithful recreation of Clark Griswold's nightmare vehicle. The replica that sold at auction was based on a 1981 Ford LTD station wagon that had been expertly modified to match every detail of the movie car, including the 8 headlights arranged in stacked clusters, the quadruple taillights, the excessive fake wood paneling, the metallic pea green paint job, and even the oddly placed fuel filler door on the hood. The builder went to extraordinary lengths to ensure screen accuracy, using custom fabricated trim pieces, specially cut glass for the trapezoidal side windows, and period-correct accessories to make the car look exactly like it had just driven off the set in 1983. The fact that someone paid over 6 figures for a car that was originally designed as a joke about terrible automotive design speaks to how beloved National Lampoon's Vacation has become over the decades, and how the family truckster has transformed from a symbol of suburban embarrassment into a cherished icon of American comedy. The auction result also shows that movie car replicas can command prices comparable to actual screen-used vehicles when they're built with enough attention to detail and authenticity, especially when they represent something as culturally significant as the Griswolds' infamous station wagon. Fact 10. Anthony Michael Hall. Grew 3 inches during filming, Anthony Michael Hall was only 14 years old when he was cast as Rusty Griswold in National Lampoon's Vacation, and like many teenagers, he was right in the middle of puberty during production, which created an unexpected continuity problem for the filmmakers. Hall grew 3 inches between the original filming and the reshoots that took place about 6 months later, and if you watch the movie carefully, you can see that he's noticeably taller in the final scenes at Wally World compared to the rest of the film, sometimes even appearing taller than his on-screen sister and mother. The reshoots became necessary because test audiences didn't respond well to the original ending of the movie, so the production had to bring everyone back months after they had wrapped principal photography to film a completely different conclusion. By that time, Hall had gone through a dramatic growth spurt. His voice had deepened, his hair had gotten darker, and he had developed acne and was wearing braces, making him look like a completely different kid from the tow-headed 14-year-old who had started filming. Hall later recalled that when he returned to set at Six Flags Magic Mountain for the Wally World scenes, Chevy Chase was the first person to point out all these changes, immediately commenting on Hall's new height, his pimples, and his braces in front of the entire crew. Despite the awkwardness of having his puberty announced publicly by his famous co-star, Hall has spoken about the experience with good humor over the years, and he's maintained a close relationship with his fellow cast members. The visible difference in his appearance between scenes actually adds an unintentional layer of authenticity to the movie, showing just how long and exhausting the Griswolds' road trip really was. Fact 11. The dog tied to bumper gag was based on reality. One of the darkest and most memorable jokes in National Lampoon's Vacation happens when Clark forgets to untie Aunt Edna's dog Dinky from the rear bumper of the family truckster before driving away, resulting in the unfortunate death of the little dog who gets dragged behind the car. This morbid gag might seem like pure fictional comedy, but director Harold Ramis later revealed that the scene was actually inspired by a real incident that the film crew witnessed during production, making the joke even more unsettling when you realize it came from actual events. According to Ramos, while the cast and crew were on location during their cross-country filming schedule, they observed a real family at a hotel parking lot who were preparing to leave and drive away with their dog still tied to the bumper of their vehicle. Fortunately, members of the production crew spotted what was about to happen and quickly intervened to stop the family before they could pull out of the parking spot and potentially harm their pet. The incident was shocking enough that it stuck in everyone's minds, and the filmmakers decided to incorporate a version of it into the movie as one of the many disasters that befall the Griswold family during their vacation. The fact that this scenario actually happened in real life adds a strange layer to watching the scene in the film, knowing that somewhere out there, a family nearly made the same terrible mistake that Clark Griswold does in the movie. It's the kind of detail that shows how the filmmakers drew inspiration from actual road trip mishaps and human error to create the comedy in National Lampoon's Vacation, even when those real-life moments were darker than you might expect. Fact 12. The crew went on an actual road trip. In order to capture the authentic feeling of a long and exhausting family road trip, director Harold Ramis and the production team decided to actually take the entire cast and crew on a real cross-country expedition rather than filming everything on studio lots or in one geographic area. The production filmed in more than 15 different locations spread across 4 states, starting in Colorado and traveling westward to California, essentially mirroring the journey that the Griswold family takes in the movie and experiencing many of the same challenges that come with moving a large group of people across the American West. Filming began in Boone, Colorado, which stood in for the Kansas scenes with Cousin Eddie, and from there the production traveled through Monument Valley in Utah, then on to various locations in Arizona, including Flagstaff, Sedona, and the Grand Canyon, before finally reaching California for the Wally World sequences. Anthony Michael Hall later recalled how unusual it was for a film production to actually make the trip instead of faking it with different locations shot out of sequence, noting that they would film a scene at the car dealership in the Los Angeles area one day, and then the entire crew would pack up and drive across the country to Colorado to continue shooting. This commitment to actually traveling the route gave the film an authentic road-weary quality that would have been difficult to achieve otherwise, and it meant that the cast and crew genuinely experienced the fatigue, boredom, and occasional frustrations of being on the road for weeks at a time. The decision to film this way was somewhat rare for Hollywood productions even in the early 1980s and would be almost unheard of today when most filmmakers prefer the control and efficiency of studio work. Fact 13. The cast's fear on the roller coasters was real. When the production moved to Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California, to film the climactic Wally World sequences at the end of National Lampoon's Vacation, the cast members found themselves facing a challenge they hadn't anticipated: riding the park's intense roller coasters over and over again until the directors got the shots they needed. The scenes inside the theme park required multiple takes from different angles and with different camera setups, which meant that Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Anthony Michael Hall, and Dana Barron had to ride the same roller coasters so many times in a row that the expressions of fear and nausea on their faces stopped being acting and became completely genuine. Six Flags Magic Mountain was known for having some of the most extreme and thrilling roller coasters in the country, including rides like Revolution and the massive wooden coaster Colossus, which appeared in the film as Screamy Mimi. While riding a roller coaster once or twice might be fun for most people, doing it 10 or 15 times consecutively for the sake of filming takes all the enjoyment out of the experience and turns it into an endurance test that leaves you feeling sick and exhausted. The cast had no choice but to keep climbing back into the coaster cars and going through the loops, drops, and high-speed turns again and again while cameras captured their increasingly authentic reactions. Anthony Michael Hall later confirmed that by the end of the filming at the theme park, nobody was having fun anymore, and the queasy, uncomfortable looks you see on screen during those roller coaster shots are the real thing. The production turned what should have been an exciting day at an amusement park into a grueling work assignment that perfectly captured the exhausted misery of the Griswold family. Fact 14. The original ending was too dark. National Lampoon's Vacation almost had a much darker and more disturbing conclusion than the one audiences ultimately saw in theaters, and the fact that the original ending had to be completely scrapped and reshot is one of the most significant behind-the-scenes stories from the production. When the filmmakers first screened the movie for test audiences, the ending showed Clark Griswold completely losing his mind after finding Wally World closed and taking the park's owner, Roy Wally, hostage at gunpoint, which pushed the comedy into territory that viewers found too uncomfortable and mean-spirited for what had been a lighthearted family road trip movie. The test screening results were so negative that Warner Brothers decided the ending needed to be completely reworked, so several months after the original production had wrapped, the cast and crew reassembled to film an entirely new conclusion featuring John Candy as a sympathetic security guard who helps the Griswolds enjoy the park after hours. This new ending maintained the idea of Clark pulling a gun and forcing his way into the closed theme park, but it softened the tone considerably by having Roy Wally show up voluntarily to thank Clark for being a loyal fan rather than being held against his will, turning what had been a hostage situation into something much more wholesome and redemptive. The reshoot took place about 6 months after principal photography had finished, which is why Anthony Michael Hall looks noticeably different in those final Wally World scenes compared to the rest of the film. The original darker ending has been discussed in DVD commentary tracks and interviews over the years, but it has never been released in any format, making it one of those lost pieces of film history that only exists in the memories of the test audiences who saw it. Fact 15. The Minivan, debuted the same year as the movie. One of the most remarkable coincidences in automotive and entertainment history happened in 1983 when two events occurred simultaneously that would forever change how American families thought about their vehicles. National Lampoon's Vacation was released in theaters on July 29th of 1983, showcasing the hideous Wagon Queen family truckster as the embodiment of everything wrong with station wagons. And just a few months later, in November of that same year, Chrysler introduced the first modern minivan with the Dodge Caravan and Plymouth Voyager, creating a perfect storm that effectively killed the station wagon market. The timing couldn't have been more perfect for Chrysler's new vehicle category, because National Lampoon's Vacation had spent the entire summer making station wagons look uncool, uncomfortable, and embarrassing, while millions of Americans watched Clark Griswold suffer through his road trip in the ugly pea-green family truckster. When Chrysler rolled out their minivans just a few months later, they were offering a vehicle that solved all the problems that station wagons had: more interior space, easier entry and exit through sliding doors, better visibility, and most importantly, a design that didn't carry the stigma of being associated with the worst aspects of 1970s automotive excess that the truckster represented. The Chrysler minivan became an instant success and quickly replaced the station wagon as America's family vehicle of choice, while station wagon sales collapsed and never recovered. Whether this was purely coincidental timing or whether Chrysler's marketing team recognized the cultural moment and capitalized on it remains unclear. But the fact remains that 1983 marked both the peak of station wagon mockery in popular culture and the beginning of the minivan era that would dominate American suburbs for the next 2 decades. The next 2 decades. The next 2 decades. The next 2 decades.